Propellerhead Reason is a music-making control station. But to make music, you need tracks. So let me now show you the colorful track section of Reason. This video is part of my quick tutorial series on Propellerhead Reason. Alright, so over here to the left is where you have the track section in Reason. And let's start at the top, where you have a couple of features you need to learn to control your tracks with. You find the track section controls just below the main toolbar of the sequencer. The first feature is the manual record mode. If you turn on the manual record mode, you disable the automatic record enable per track you have selected. So as you can see, if I switch track here and select another track, the record enable button is on for every track I select automatically. But if I use the manual record mode, it is not selected and you have to manually select the record mode if you want to record anything on this track. Then you have a button to turn all mutes off and a button to turn all solo off. This means that, let's say you have listened to a couple of tracks in solo mode, like so. Instead of turning them off one by one, you can use this button here, which is now green, to simply turn them all off, and now you can listen to all tracks again. And it's the same for the mutes. Let's say you have muted these tracks, now you can just click here to turn them all off. Then you have this little plus button here, which is called New Note Lane. And it basically is a new MIDI track for the same instrument. So let's say you have a drum kit like here. If you want to record the bass drum on one track, the hi-hats on another track, but still use the same instrument, you can simply select the drums track here and then click this New Note Lane button, and you will have a new lane created here. And you can do this a couple of more times, and then name these as you want. For example, bass drum, and so on. You can think of this like sub-tracks for an individual track. And even if you don't use any extra sub-tracks, you can see that the default name is always lane 1 for every track. So instead of keeping these default boring names lane 1, you can take advantage of this feature by renaming them into something more descriptive. This will give you increased overview and clarity of the sequencer in your project. For example, let's say this note lane is a driving synth sound that pulses in a 16th note rhythm. Well, then the track name could be, let's say, Drive Synth. And the lane name could be called, for example, 16th Pulse. You can get my Reason Legends pack completely for free. Simply go to my website and sign up to my VIP email list. Become a VIP, it's 100% free. So that was the new note lane feature. Next is the track parameter automation feature. Propellerhead Reason is well known for its automation capabilities. You can pretty much automate anything in your project, even the tempo down here, by just right-clicking and choosing Edit Automation. And for all automation that you do in your project, a new automation track will be created in the sequencer. As you can see here, we have a track called Tempo now. Now we are in the rack again because I want to show you that this is the same for anywhere in your project. You can simply right-click with your mouse and choose Edit Automation. But if we get back to the sequencer, perhaps you don't want to go over here to the rack all the time you want to create a new automation. Well, that's what this feature is for. So from this feature, you can actually access and add automation for any parameter of the device you have selected in your sequencer. So let's say you want to automate the pitch bend of this lead track here. You can of course go to the rack and right-click on the pitch bend wheel here, Edit Automation, or you can just as easily use this feature and go to Performance and choose Pitch Bend. And a new automation lane is created on the lead track for the pitch bend wheel. And this final function of the track section features is called Create Pattern Lane. As you can see, it is grayed out, and it will be for all of these tracks because this is only available for devices that has patterns. For example, the Redrum drum machine or the Matrix sequencer. So let's open up the browser and add a Redrum drum computer to this project. You can either left-click and drag it into your sequencer to choose where you want to place it. Just make sure you see that little plus icon, like between the bass drum and the drums, like so. Or you can simply double-click on the device you want to add, and then it's added at the bottom of your sequencer. You can always left-click with your mouse on the left side of any track in your sequencer and hold it and drag it to wherever you want to place it, like so. Now if I select this Redrum track, since this is pattern-based, I have this feature activated so I can create a new pattern lane. And this lane is for automating which pattern is played on the Redrum drum computer. You can think of pattern select and pattern-based devices as sub-sequencers of your main sequencer. Just below the main tools of the track section is where you can access the blocks mode. And I will cover blocks more deeply in another video, but basically you can think of them as subsections of your main sequencer. I personally love the blocks feature, and you can use it in so many ways. It's really easy to use. You simply go into the blocks view mode and then choose the block you want to add to. In this case, I have already made a little sequence in block number 1. Then you go back to the song view, and as you can see, this lead synth is not yet available here because it is a sub-sequence of the main sequencer, which is added in a block. To add a subsequence or block to your main sequencer, you simply go up here to the blocks lane and double-click. And as you can see, you get a little down arrow here where you can choose the block you want to add and then extend it for as long as you want it to be. You can now see that the lead synth is now available here, even though it was not recorded in the main sequencer. That's what blocks are for. So now I can drag this around and only the lead synth or everything added to the block is moved. And this takes us to this button in the track section which I wanted to show you, which basically does what it says here, mute block automation. So if I switch that on, the lead synth is gone because all blocks are removed from the main sequencer. Now let's switch the block on again. And if you ever want to convert these block clips into the main sequencer, you can simply right-click on the block and choose Convert Block Clips to Song Clips. And that moves the lead synth now back into the main sequencer, so I can actually delete the block now, and the lead synth will still be here. Great! You are learning Reason fast. Make sure to practice the track section controls yourself to make the knowledge stick. My name is Mike, signing out, and you rock, my friends. My name is Mike, and I share my story and journey as a music composer and sound designer to inspire creative people like you. So click that subscribe button to gain music superpowers.